critical concepts that we need to teach students at the middle school and high school level, so they are going to be ready for college. And then based on this feedback, we revise our learning progressions, and then we do research. You know, like we go to the classrooms, we come up with activities like the electricity one that Dr. Lynn Bryan showed you last week. We call them these are specific interviews. You know, we call them clinical interviews. Some of you heard already, but we usually come up with a model, like the electricity model, and then we interview hundreds of students at the different grade levels, try to understand what they know about whatever science concept, for example, we are focusing on. And based on that research, we revise our learning progression again. And you know, we come up with this learning progression, and then we use it when we are designing state standards, like science education standards or national education standards. So it's an iterative process. It includes the research aspect. It includes the experiences. It includes the the teaching aspect in terms of like teachers having experiences and then learning more from students. Does that make sense to you? Okay. Let's see. So, for example, this one, the latest national science education standards were developed based on learning progressions that many educators and scientists develop. Have you heard about next generation science standards before? This is pretty new, last few years. These have been developed, and now more states are adopting these standards. So this means that in many states, students at the elementary level, middle school level, and high school level learning the same concepts, same levels, at the same level, okay? So I'm going to show you one thing, for example. I made some copies. Maybe you can grab one copy of each and then just give it to the others. So I'm going to show you one thing. The concept is ecosystems, interactions, energy, and dynamics. And I'm going to show you the learning progression for 5th grade, middle school, and high school. And then I want you to discuss it briefly, the similarities and differences when you look at each grade band. And I'm going to also project it here, don't worry. So the first one that we are going to look at is the 5th grade level. Can you guys see it well? Let's see. I want you to read only this section here. This one, LS2A, independent relationships in ecosystems. Just this paragraph, okay? Just this paragraph. This is 5th grade. Did everybody have the chance to read the paragraph? Okay. What does it say, basically? Anyone?
An ecosystem needs to be stable with multiple components at each level.
They are in a relationship, right? Okay, cool. Now we are going to look at the middle school level, same standard, same concept, okay? Okay, this is the middle school one. Again, only this paragraph. Same standard. Okay. How is it similar or different than the previous one?
It's a lot simpler, it feels like. It's kind of more of an overview.
A little bit broad, maybe? Okay. So can you see how we are adding more to the middle school level one? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the middle school level one just talked about organisms related by food, but this one talks about organisms related to resources as a whole, food being included within that.
Yeah.
So it establishes the interconnectedness of organisms as a whole and the fifth grade level, and then reaches that to other materials further on.
In an ecosystem, right? Great. Okay, now we are going to look at the high school level one. Again, same standard. This one. Okay, how does this one different than the previous ones? What does it add to the middle school one? Does the middle school one talk about populations? Capacity in populations and stuff like that? No. No. At this level, we also start high school level learning about population genetics, you know, like the connections between ecosystems. So does it make sense to you now how we add more from elementary to middle and then from middle to high school? And then also, I didn't ask you to look at these, but as you move on, then the performance expectations for students are changing. You know, for this one, for example, we want students, high school students, use mathematical or computational representations to support explanations of factors that affect carrying capacity of ecosystems at different scales. Can a middle school student handle this, or elementary student? No. The equations? No. The middle school students only analyze and interpret data to provide evidence for the effects of resource availability on organisms and populations of organisms in an ecosystem. We are not talking about mathematical and computational representations here, right? And when we look at the fifth grade level performance expectation, they just need to develop a model to describe the movement of matter among plants, animals, decomposers, and the environment. You know, the food chains, do you remember the very simple food chains that you created before? So this is how we develop the learning progressions and then the national standards. So the states, there are about like 35 states right now adopted NGSS standards. So in those states, all the elementary, middle, and high school students are learning about the same things at this level, you know, the levels that are already identified. Does that make sense to you now? Okay, so we have about 10 minutes, right? So what I want you to do is, some of you have laptops. I want you to go to this website, NGSS, if you can Google NGSS. This is going to be a group work too for the rest of the time. Identify an concept area, life science, physical science, or earth science, or engineering. You know, some of you, if you are interested in engineering, there are some standards for engineering practices and engineering design. And then do the same thing that we just did, you know, for the ecosystems. Look at how is it different at the elementary school level, middle school level, and high school level. Is that clear? So we are going to spend, let's say, about like 7 to 8 minutes, and then I'm going to give you some time, you know, in case you have questions. Okay? Do you guys have access to this website now? NGSS?
Could you put the slides back to the topics?
Yeah.
Like
Any life science concepts, physical science, earth science, or engineering practices. I can show you the search box here. Okay. The search box here. Let's say that, I don't know what you're interested in. A concept, a science concept, something. I don't know, weather or
The atom.
atom or like something like, I don't know, thermal energy or something like that, you know. Not at that level.
Yeah. The atom.
For example, I just put properties of materials and it's show it, and you just need to click and learn more about it. For those of you who are still couldn't decide what topic, like these are some of the topics: structure and properties of matter, chemical reactions, forces and motion, energy.
That's it.
So you can just measure it.
Okay.
Which one are you looking
Like
at?
a balancing.
The one for matter.
Yeah.
properties of matter.
Mm-hmm.
No attempt is made to define it. Why does it feel like it gets simpler?
Yeah.
Why is this middle school one simpler than the elementary school one? Or it feels simpler.
Like, look at this one. How about this?
Oh.
What you want students to do.
Oh.
That would also help you to understand the difference. So this is middle school or
Yeah,
elementary?
This is middle school.
Middle school. No,
And then this is elementary.
that's yeah. Develop a
Did I-
model.
Did I do this right?
PSC one. This is 5th grade, right?
Yeah.
I think all of them that you are looking at is 5th grade, but different parts of the same standard. 1/3, 1/1, but it's same big
Oh,
standards.
I just did middle.
Let's
Oh wait, I selected all of them.
Okay.
I didn't. Okay, I see now. I was doing it wrong. Okay. Let's try that again.
Okay. Now this is the middle school one. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds about right.
That sounds better.
Yeah, because
okay.
the synthetic materials and then the natural resources.
I did not realize this search bar could zoom in until
Right. Because that would be, you're keeping the theme more consistent. Right.
So the physics concept.
yeah. You're introducing like traction.
Yeah.
And now you're starting to do like your own experiments and stuff.
Yeah, seems like it.
Feels very science fairish.
Yeah, it just becomes a fun and engaging activity, but missing the science content behind it, right? Yeah.
That's what we thought.
Yeah.
That's what our EPICS team is doing. We're
Yeah.
doing nights to get kids engaged in engineering.
Yeah.
Right, in STEM we're doing like a space theme, and you know, it was a general consensus that it was supposed to be like more of a piquing interest thing and less of a learning thing. But if you're
Oh.
not like making it educational or like making it relevant to science, then
Oh.
it's not a really valid engineering experience at all.
We do a lot of STEM and engineering activities in our college too. I work with the teachers, but I always, emphasize that you gotta teach students the science content so that they apply it to their engineering challenge. Otherwise, they don't understand what engineering is. It becomes another fun, engaging thing that they build or,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, that's
tests.
what we
Yeah, it needs to be explicit, I think.
Mhm.
But on the other hand, some people think that most students, they don't have any opportunities. Something like this would kind of help them to just have those experiences. That makes sense, but in the real classrooms, not after-school programs, but real everyday classrooms, I think they have to apply science to their engineering challenges.
They're acting like it's gonna hurt them or something to learn.
Yeah.
A little bit of something. It's like
Yeah,
it's
right.
fine. Just teach them about like. I mean, most of it's hands-on anyway, so you're learning it from trial and error.
Yeah.
It's not,
Yeah, exactly. Teach them some force and motion in order to build this
right.
race car or
Right.
whatever
And it's
the
so
rubber
simple
band
to
car that they are
learn
real.
just a little bit of physics or chemistry. And
Yeah.
I think
something.
people are too scared that we're making this too schooly and not like, and they're trying to like, no, it's gotta be fun, not school. It's like, but there's gotta be
There's
some.
has to
It can be both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. That I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I'm, as you can tell, very traumatized by the
Good. Do you guys have any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
How do you go from a standard to, like, how do you take that and then you have to teach? How do you
Come up with activities, you mean, as a teacher? So I was just showing you, for example, one of these things, right? Let me open up it again. So for example, for this one, here. So this is the standard, right? But here you see the performance expectation here. So you focus on these and try to come up with activities at the end of those activities to make sure that students can do this. So whatever lab activities that you are going to create or pick from internet, you just focus on the end result of it. Is this lab activity going to help my students to do this at the end? Instead of like doing it for the sake of doing the activity, there are a lot of science teachers out there. They do this lab, this activity, that activity, but you just need to make sure that everything is going to be connected to each other so that at the end, students can do this. Does that make sense? But there are no lesson plans attached to these standards telling teachers, these are the lessons that you need to do. That part is the creative part, I think, for the teachers. Any other questions?
Why haven't all the states switched over to NGSS?
That's an excellent question. It's related to politics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other question? Are we good? That's all I have. Hope you enjoyed it. This is my contact information in case you guys have any questions.